come back to the domestic dictation program. I know it's work in progress. The government is trying to fine-tune stuff with the banks and all the rest. Is there an alternative for these commercial banks in terms of how they try to work out whatever assurances that the government is giving them, what they are putting on the table? I mean, some other interest groups are putting pressure on the banks that don't accept it. You know, some are saying they accept it, some are saying that push for more. Do the commercial banks have an option?
You've lent the money. So once you lend money, you lose control. And especially when you lend against sovereign guarantee. It's not like I lend your wife his money. If I lent money to you and you didn't pay, I'll come straight for the house. And I know you live in a beautiful area, so I would have sold it and got my money. But you lend to government against a sovereign guarantee, which is a piece of paper. So you are stuck. So it is not an option. It's just how do I ensure that this money that I've let out, which I program will come this way and it's not coming, how will it affect my obligations to the depositors, to my other businesses? That's where the issues are coming from. So it's not, the banks would wish that this was a dream and everybody would just get up and it was a bad dream, but it's a reality. So they would be looking to the borrower now, which is Ghana government, and say, look, if you just defaulted because of the size of my exposure to you and also related distance, my bank is gone. Indeed, if the banks were to really risk classify their bonds and related exposures and, of course, wash it through their income statement and back onto the balance sheet, very few banks will have any capital left to operate. And is that what we want? So it's not negotiation with the bank, really. For me, it's about what kind of arrangement do we put in place that banks that were observing the statutory regulations and Bank of Ghana requirements, which were sound on capital, on risk management, on liquidity reserve, they were sound until this external huge contagion of government that came in. So the threat to banking is not because they managed their book wrongly. The biggest borrower is going belly up. So I would think that the question should be the answer. Is there any other way government could handle that debt without imploding the internal financial structures? That's, for me, a much more fundamental question. Is this the only way? I don't think this is. I don't think there are other ways.
Andani Bank was the 25th commercial bank in this country.
Yeah. With
the current proposal on the table, are you going to accept it?
It depends. If I roll it back and still have a business. This is
from where it's structured now, some of the banks are saying that they don't have a business.
Well,
will Mr. Andani Bank accept this 5% being offered?
Andani Bank as a shareholder, if I were the shareholder of the bank, I'll go back and say, sorry, you can't put me out of business. I'll go back to the borrower and say, you can't put me out of business. That's the shareholder's decision. It's not the management's. The management is there when there's a balance sheet and deposits and clients to deal with. But when you have wiped me all out, it's no longer the manager will just go and show to the board, to his the leader will just show to the board and to executive shareholders to say the implication of this is that my net loss is, let's say, $1 billion. My capital is 400. My reserve is 200, so capital reserves wiped off. I'm in a negative position. I don't have a bank. And the first person to act will be the Bank of Ghana. Bank of Ghana should come and close your doors and protect depositors. That's just it. That's the normal flow.
Would Mr. Andani Bank ask for a better proposal to ensure that your assets are protected, your liquidity is protected?
Yes.
With respect to what is on the table right now?
Yes, because as I said, I have a sovereign paper. So I'll go to, and the sovereign is subject to legal action. I wouldn't sit down and let any agent in the economy. Yes, the government is, he owns everything, but I'm also an independent company that has set up my business with my own capital. So if your action is taking off my capital and I don't have a bank, sorry, I'll have to go to seek redress.
From what we saw earlier on in terms of the communication between the banks and the Ministry of Finance, the individual banks are supposed to go to their shareholder and to seek their blessings on it. Would you give your blessing to the current deal on the table as a shareholder?
It depends upon what the
offering 5% on the bonds for
upon the 5%, 15%.
Is it a good deal?
It will all be modeled into a financial model for me. And I look at it and say, do I still have capital? If I don't have capital, do I have the capacity? Because Ghana is not going to end on debt exchange. If I don't have the capital, or if the bank has no capital now, I'll ask myself, do I have the potential to introduce capital so that I can still be in the system? If I have, and still believe in the future, yes, I will recapitalize and stay in. But if I don't, first of all, I have to protect my commercial judgment, which I thought was right until this. Think about it. If it was any other corporate borrowing and crashing a bank, what would you be asking? What kind of collateral did you take?
They'll ask for a better deal to be put on the table.
Yes, what kind of collateral did you take? What is it? What are the remedies? So that's the thing. So if I have a scenario presented to me as a shareholder that says that this action is wiped you off and you will not have a business because from these numbers, the Bank of Ghana will be the next on Monday to close us down. Would you sit down?
Would you, as a shareholder, tell your bank that go back and get a better deal that will still keep me in business because of what they have presented?
I would
say
say
one of the commercial.
Yes, I'll say that no, I don't accept this.
You should go back and push for a better deal.
I say I don't accept it. These are the exposures that you reported to me at the last board meeting. It is this one that is bringing me down. Sorry, I can't accept that to happen. So go back.
As a shareholder, are you satisfied with the regulatory and the fiscal proposals on the table to support you as a shareholder in these commercial banks? I mean, they're talking about financial stability fund that you can go to, all those things. Are those things, again, enough to ensure that your capital is protected as a shareholder in any of these banks?
Yeah, look, when we come to this, we should be careful to separate the role of the Bank of Ghana, which is also impacted by this debt exchange program anyway, and the government, which holds these debts. Otherwise, we'll miss the point. The institution with the primary responsibility to protect the financial system and everybody else is the Bank of Ghana. They also bought bonds like everybody else. Yeah. So we should actually not be mixing the two. We should be coming back to government and say, this debt that you owe, and which carry the reputation of the entire country, if we renege on it in a manner that destroys the financial system, which is a nerve of the economy, the main nerve of the economy, what have you achieved? So the question should be going back and asking fundamentally again, is that the only way to go? Because whoever you want to help, whether you want to, and first of all, we should be looking to help ourselves. Do you want to, as you easily say, cut your nose to spite your face? Yeah. So let's separate Bank of Ghana, because what Bank of Ghana is trying to say, okay, look, in a very risky environment like Ghana, ordinarily Basel says capital adequacy is 10, but I would say no, it's risky. I'll keep it at 15, or I'll keep it at 13. So it was just being abundantly cautious. So they're probably prepared to abandon that caution and to let banks operate what I would say closer to their most acceptable risk line. That's what they are trying to do at best, to keep that system integrity. But don't push it. If you push it, they can't do anything more than that.